Hey everyone, today I'm joined by Garret Caudle. Garret is the CEO of Influent, helping founders ideate, create, and execute on LinkedIn. They don't just focus on posting, but rather the full pipeline of social media lead generation. This conversation was a lot of fun and packs a serious punch for anyone looking to jumpstart their publishing journey on LinkedIn. I know I pulled a lot of insights that I could apply immediately, so I know you're going to find value in this one as well. In this episode, we discuss the biggest mistakes founders make when starting on LinkedIn, the secret to social publishing success, what to do once you have a social presence, and more. Today's episode is brought to you by ZenPilot. There are lots of tools out there for agencies to manage projects, but any project issues aren't usually caused by the tool, they're from your own processes. ZenPilot helps agencies implement their project management tools while streamlining operations, so your team can move from chaos to clarity. You can see for yourself at zenpilot.com/forward. And now my conversation with Garret Caudle. It's easier than ever to start an agency, but it's only getting harder to stand out and keep it alive. Join me as we explore the strategies agencies are using today to secure a better tomorrow. This is Agency Forward. How are agency leaders using LinkedIn wrong?
Yeah. Chris, this question gets me heated because the reality is, so we work with a lot of agency founders. It's, a really great, client base for us because, this is a commoditized world where, there's how many, thousands of agencies out there. And so, if you can make, your agency stand out because you have, the best expertise and you're showing it on LinkedIn, that can be super effective. But what almost all of them get wrong is agency founders half-ass it all the time on LinkedIn. They know the channel works. They, stitch some stuff together. They paper mache together a strategy. They do it for 3.5 months and they go, God, this thing doesn't work. LinkedIn's not working for me. What am I doing wrong? They get frustrated. They put it down. They pick it back up later. It's inconsistent. The reality is that if you sat most agency founders down and said, are you actually really giving this like the full go? They would tell you, no, they're not. It's almost always, it's just not being given the attention it needs in order to have success. This is a hard thing to do. Like if you sit down and talk to any like influencer out there, like a B2C influencer, they'll tell you like this is an extremely difficult thing to do, to build a following, build a community, create engaging content. And it's a game that'll like chew you up and spit you out. And yet a lot of these agency founders treat it like any other marketing channel. Oh, it's like, SEO, throw up some blog posts, it's like, Google ads, like set up the strategy, let it run, set it and forget it. It's a different beast, man. And if I could just shake every agency founder and say like, dude, you're not trying. There's no data involved in this. There's no structure involved in this. You're not actually putting your best resources toward this. That's honestly the biggest mistake I see all the time.
I ran an agency for a bit and getting LinkedIn at one point was like the priority. Like we need to just drive more conversations through LinkedIn. But then all of these other competing priorities, right? Because priority at one point, I love Greg McKeown has this in the book, Essentialism. Talks about how priority was a singular word until like the 1900s. And then all of a sudden it's plural. And like, yes, and it's a battle for every, right. So I guess how do you work with agency like owners, founders, anyone to actually make it a priority so that they do want to stick it out longer than that 3-month stint to see how it works?
Well, here's the great thing. This is what I tell, agency founders in the sales cycle when I'm talking to them is that working with us, you have skin in the game. You're committed, right? Like you're signing a contract with us and you're investing a decent amount of money. We're not, we're a premium service. We're not cheap, which means that you're going to be all in on this and we're going to do it the right way. And so that's why in the sales cycle, I try to be really honest is like, yeah, you believe in this channel. Yeah, you think, your agency can make this work. But are you really actually ready to take that step? And I know I make it sound really dramatic, but it's true. Like this is a really, really big step for most agencies. I mean, for most of our clients, this is a big step because for the very first time, you're creating a certain type of content engine that just doesn't exist inside the company. And it is something that it's a really difficult thing to set up and it's a really difficult thing to maintain. And it takes a lot of, time and energy and effort. So just by working with us, sometimes I'm able to really, get people to double down and actually commit. And then the other thing I like to do sometimes is I like to show them what's possible. So, sometimes I'll take them, founders through, our case studies of our clients, and I'll show them the results, and they'll be like, yeah, man, this is what I want. And then I show them behind the scenes and I go, okay, cool. Here's a 5-page map of all of the different topics and how they're related and all of the different, POVs and worldviews that this agency founder has. And by the way, here's this really in-depth study we did about all of their, ICP and where they're at on LinkedIn and the kind of people they follow and the kind of content they engage with. Oh, and by the way, here's 12 variations of this one hook that we tested for this one, POV that this one agency founder had. And then it clicks for them and I go, oh, okay. The reason this works is because you guys put in crazy sophistication into the process.
Right. Yeah. And that's a great strategy for making that happen. I mean, how many people have said, oh, I could go to the Olympics, but when you look at all of the training that's involved, every calorie is counted, every workout is measured. Now it's oh, there's a lot of work involved here. And that's where you guys would come in this metaphor of let me bring in a coach who actually knows how to do all of this stuff. 100%.
I mean, it's funny. I think as marketers, even, we run marketing agencies. And so all day we talk about how, we approach things different and we're on the bleeding edge of marketing and so on and so on. But the way we typically market ourselves, they talk about the shoemaker's kids, right? The shoemaker's kids are the last ones to get shoes. We often don't take the same attention and effort into, our own marketing that we do, to our clients' marketing. And so if, agency founders are honest with themselves, they realize that I would not be a client of myself. The way we're approaching our marketing on LinkedIn, I would not pay for that as a service. And so that's where, either you get, your whole in-house team on the same page, you try to get everyone invested, or you work with an agency like us where, we have the whole playbook set up. We can take you on that journey. And then, typically that path, keeps people accountable and we end up seeing some really great results.
Right. It's Solomon's paradox, where King Solomon, super wise king, but he couldn't solve his own problems for anything, right? Just couldn't save himself.
Totally. Well, and this is also where having a partner is helpful is a lot of getting this right is about understanding what is your actual unique worldview, right? If you think about LinkedIn, an attention economy, right? I mean, that's what social media is. You're getting real-time feedback from people when you post and you don't get any engagement that actually wasn't very compelling to them. And that can be a hard pill to swallow. Mm-hmm. And sometimes what you really need is an external partner to come in and say, tell me all of your, what is your worldview? What's your beliefs? How does your agency approach marketing? And the first thing people will rattle off is the same stuff everyone else says. Oh, we believe in, the customer journey and, people first and this and that. It's okay, what else? How is that different from, because I hear that every day. I really do. I talk to agency founders. My team talks to founders all the time. And so sometimes it helps to have a second partner who can come in and say, yeah, but what do you actually believe? And it takes time to really whittle down and then you actually arrive at some really unique positioning. And after hours and hours, you get there and you go, okay, that's what you should be leading with on LinkedIn. That's what you believe in. And having having a third party do that can be super helpful. That's why we all have therapists and advisors and people.
Yeah, 100%. That exercise as well. So I call this the every curse. If you go look at agency websites, they're all saying the same thing. They're providing everything to everyone, and in reality, then providing nothing to everyone. And they're the same. You can slap a different logo on that site, and I can't tell the difference between your brand and someone else's.
Dude, this is going to sound dramatic, but if I woke up one day and just owned just another mid-size, a full service agency that does SEO and ads and this and that. And it's all it would be my worst nightmare. I would go back to bed and say, please, give me something else. I can't stand it. There's a reason why I started a LinkedIn agency. I want to be the best full funnel, full service LinkedIn agency that takes a unique approach using executives to, build awareness and generate leads. That's a tight set of services. We're going a mile deep, not a mile wide. And it's not to say you can't have success with mile-wide agencies. They obviously exist for a reason. But if you're one of those agencies and you do all of it, if you're not going to whittle down your services, then it's incumbent on you to whittle down your messaging. You need to have a really tight worldview, sell that worldview, and then the services all funnel in toward that worldview. But if you come to me and you're at the 150th best SEO shop, it's all right, let's do some work, because obviously, there's a reason that you don't sign clients other than referral. We need to actually work on your messaging here.
Right. So I guess what's the approach for getting to that in a world that's so commoditized? How are you helping them actually stand
Yeah.
out?
So this is where it can be kind of fun and infuriating maybe at the same time. But usually this starts with us, excuse me, doing a what we call like a thought leadership mapping session. And what we do is we take the different sort of subject matter experts throughout the organization. So usually this is the CEO. They usually come to the table with maybe a few people from their leadership team and maybe a person or two from their delivery team. We put them all in a room together and we shut the door. Usually it's a virtual room, but imagine a virtual door being shut. And we say, okay, we're not leaving this room until we really crack the code of like what you all actually do differently, what you actually believe that maybe not everyone believes. And maybe it's not one thing you believe, but maybe it's the combination of these different things you believe that make you guys special. And I believe this is something that should be happening anyway for any company. That's, if you're creating a company, you should ask yourself this question. But a lot of companies, they've been in operation for a while. They don't do this process. So it's a really helpful process for them. And a lot of effort, again, for, just LinkedIn content, right? Like they can take this exercise and use it for, everything. But we do that. We put them all in a room. We map out their worldview. What are some of the worldviews they have? What are some of the narratives that they're trying to tell? And then what are the different POVs, the different points of view that they have that ladder underneath that? And that becomes a thought leadership map. It's like an artifact that we can then take and say, okay, let's execute against this. Let's create content in different pillars according to this thought leadership map. And it becomes an artifact that we use and iterate on and add to. And that's what I mean by like a 5-page document for some of these brands.
Right. How long is that? Just out of curiosity, how long does that process usually take you?
Well, it depends. So it is, one of those things where it's going to take you as long as you give it, right? If you say we have 5 days to do this, it'll take 5 days. If you tell people we have 90 minutes, you'll have a really great 90 minutes. Typically with us, we're able to get it in like 2 sessions, both being 60 minutes. The first kind of focused on the high level, the second one being more focused on sort of the narrow. It also depends on, we have different packages, and those different packages come with different levels of, research on our end. So, we can bring together, who are other thought leaders in your space? What are they talking about? Who are your ideal customers? What are they, who are they following? What are they talking about? Do a little bit of social listening exercise, bring that to the table. So for some of our advanced clients, it's, it can be like really like a couple weeks, but for our, average client, we're doing like 2 60-minute sessions basically.
Gotcha. And so once you have this planned out, right, the executive whoever that leader is, right, is really going to start focusing their content around that. Do you include the team in this as well?
Meaning the rest of their team?
Yeah, like everybody. So I guess I'll go a little further. This was one of the pieces we had looked at with the agency, and one that I've talked to some of my clients about. And there's always this fear that like if everyone on my team is also building themselves up, they're going to get poached, right? If they're seen as a thought leader, they're going away, and now I have to find someone else to fill that role. So I don't necessarily want them being like the name that people recognize. I want it to be me, and they can just support my content. I guess how do you approach that, or what takes do you have on it?
Yeah, my take on this might be a little bit, I don't want to say controversial, but I'm sort of the camp where like if you're actively avoiding trying to hire extremely talented people who are experts in their field, and you're actively trying to prevent them from gaining visibility for your company because you're scared they're going to leave you, you're building a team of C players that is going to make your company fail anyway. Fill your team with A players, make it worth it for them to be there. If they're wanting to leave, then maybe you're not paying them enough, or maybe you're not setting the vision high enough, or maybe they're just going to leave. And then you need to have a really great recruiting engine to find the next person up. But the reality is, to me, is that if you're afraid to let your team share their expertise, then you are actively hurting your business in ways that you probably aren't coming to terms with.
Yeah, I guess my view is pretty similar to that. It's like when you start building up that kind of profile, right, where people seek you for thought leadership, and they see everyone else on the team is doing the same, it gives your entire team this like, I don't know, credibility that like if I am part of this team, I will also be able to do these things and think this way and be able to provide this level of results. So it's like, why now it's a recruiting engine as well.
100%. I mean, some of the most successful, companies I've seen with this strategy, they have thought leaders identified throughout their organization who maybe they're, department leads or, GMs or whatever it is. And these people are just as much thought leaders, tactical thought leaders, as the CEO or the founder or anyone else in the C-suite. And I've even seen people compensate because of that. Meaning, like, normally we pay this much for a director of whatever, but you are a public, facing, marketing tool for us, and we're generating and leads, and we're trying to, so we're going to do this where we're going to help you build your personal brand. We're going to invest in it. We're going to give you more strategy, more resources, and we're going to compensate you a little bit more because you're bringing in, business for us. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great way to create, aligned incentives. The only reason that person leaves is because their incentives aren't aligned with you. If they're, they want more money and you don't want to give them more money, then, that's the nature of,
right,
what we're doing here. It's free market, right? And so that's just part of the business, I think.
Yeah, I think one of the sort of non-agency company that's I think doing this really well is Exit 5, where started with just Dave Gerhardt creating content, and he has started hiring this year and bringing in other team members, and they just got up to 5 team members. But what's interesting is that now even these like junior team members that they're bringing on, because everyone in the company is also liking and commenting on their posts, it's expanding the reach of those individuals. They build up faster, but now the entire company's spread is exponential. And so it's just amazing how fast you can see that exploding.
Yeah, man. I mean, think about this idea of like the garage agency. I was talking with a friend about this. The idea that like, an agency of 10 people with incredible technology and very deep expertise, meaning you have like 10 people who are all, could be directors in any other person's, agency. And then very, very few sort of frontline, folks. Maybe you have some project managers and whatnot. That kind of agency is the future of a lot of the agency world, right? Because you have technology that augments, what's possible in terms of like the frontline actual activity, which means you can go from a team of 30 doers to a team of 10 really strategic people operating with great technology. Okay, awesome. Well, if that's the future of agencies, then you are leaving so much upside on the table if you don't take those 10 people who are deep domain experts and say, this is the person behind our whatever practice, our LinkedIn ads practice has this person who's so brilliant and who knows how to do, and that's the person who's structured our entire thing, and empower all those people to be able to be the thought leaders in their space. Next thing you know, you have like a team of like, oh man, rock stars that are all sort of building this sort of credibility for your company and driving leads. And yeah, man, there's huge upside here.
Yeah, agreed. So I guess let's talk when you're starting out on LinkedIn, because this is where the slog kicks in, right?
Yep.
You're going to make some posts. There's very few impressions. It may be because you're just not providing the right message. It could also be that you just don't have an audience yet who's actually looking for this type of stuff.
Correct.
And so how do you kind of jumpstart that in order to know, are we even providing a message in a way that resonates with who we're trying to target?
It's a great question. So this is sort of a funny conundrum, right? Where like you have to spend time dialing in your content in terms of what you want to contribute to the conversation. You take a lot of time to build out your thought leadership map. You spend a lot of time trying to figure out, okay, if I'm going to say anything at all, what can I say that's going to be actually additive to the overall thought leadership landscape? You figure that out and you feel confident that you have that and you're posting. But you're right. You're not going to all of a sudden see all these people flocking to you because LinkedIn is a community-based platform. You're trying to build this community slowly around you. And it's not going to happen overnight. Mm-hmm. It's not like TikTok. It's not just going to get picked up. You get 1 billion views. So what do you do? This is where you have to be super dialed in when it comes to looking at not how many likes you're getting, not how many comments you're getting, but who is liking and who's commenting. Are you getting 3 people from your ICP who commented on that post you did, and not just commented, they left these big long walls of text and started a conversation with you about that interesting thing you said? Well, now what you're doing is you're starting to realize you're getting signals. Okay, my ICP does care about this. And not only that, but they actually care enough that they're willing to engage with me in a conversation on LinkedIn because of it. That signal should be enough for you to be able to say, I'm going to go deeper into this and I'm going to keep doubling down on this and keep diversifying how I talk about this one subject or how I like approach this and whatever. And start bringing those people into the conversation even more, start tagging them, start really building community with those people. and then start building it up that way. And so the only way that happens is if, when you start posting, you're really paying attention to who the qualitative, who is engaging, what kind of engagement are they giving me? And you'll notice if you optimize for that after, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you start having bigger communities of that ICP because you're optimizing for that.
Right. And I'm assuming there's a play where you're trying to get into like in their comments and talking to them on different. Because if we are talking about this being a community building platform, now it's like, I don't just want you to come to me. I want you to know that I'm going to you and I'm paying attention to these conversations.
Correct. 100%. This is kind of an interesting side of the whole LinkedIn, strategy is, there's the really main bit of it, which is the publishing of content, but then there's the actual, sort of engagement with your community. And if your goal is how can I create positive, interactions with my community, posting is one way, but it's not the only way. And that's where, we have to start looking at, what's our cadence for engaging with our community's posts? What sorts of people do we want to be, tagging in our posts? And do we want to be maybe co-creating content with someone from our ICP, right? Like that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Or like, what if we ran thought leadership ads? I just did a post today about B2B influencing. What if we took people from our community that we build a relationship with and we start co-creating content with them and then boosting their posts to get in front of more of the people like them? There's so many interesting ways that you can answer the question, how do we engage with our community? But it's a huge part of it. Because if you're just this sort of like, we just post every day and then we sort of peace out, it's not doing it right.
Right. So, okay. We got a bunch of directions we can go from here. Yeah.
I know.
I guess let's, someone builds their presence on LinkedIn. Now what? Right. They have people paying attention to them. What do we do from there?
Now the fun begins because, there are, there's so many ways you can cut up what we do. But one of those ways you cut up what we do is we are here to help grow that LinkedIn presence, but we're also here to help activate it. Right. And so for, certain clients, most of our clients, we're, basically helping them, grow it. And we're activating it throughout. It's not like, wait a couple of years and then activate it. We're activating it throughout. But for other clients where maybe we're actually coming in and they've already built a little bit of a presence, now we're helping them activate that presence. And that's a huge part of our engagement. And what activating that presence can look like is, we could spend probably 3 podcast episodes talking about that. But just some ideas. Once you've built up this community of people, your ICP who have been engaging with you, what you're really sitting on is an incredible data set. And that data set's actually, it's yours, it's public. Because what you can see is you could go back through a year's worth of posts and actually scrape information. This is what we do. We have some tech that we built where you can look at all of the people within your ICP who have been engaging with your posts. You can look at, score them and aggregate it by likes, comments. You can also look at what topics they've been engaging with. You can look at what, formats they've been engaging with. And you have this incredible data set. Now you can do 2 things. One, you can use this data set to inform the rest of your marketing. We should build a white paper based off of this topic because this subset of people really seems to enjoy that. And here are all the questions they asked. And we're going to use that in the white paper. And then we're going to send that white paper to those people. So now you can start to kind of like build your content around what your audience is doing for you. That's incredible data. And there's so many ways to use it. But then you can, on the other side of things, you can actually start using this when it comes to the rest of your sales strategy or your growth strategy. So, can we start running thought leadership ads and then retargeting ads on LinkedIn that take this community and are constantly surfacing, opportunities for them to submit a form? Can we take this list of people and find the list of companies and then connect to all of the buying committees at each of these companies and have the business development team, my 2 sales people, connect to all of the people at theirs and then have them start doing proactive outreach? Can I send personalized messages using AI tools to each one of the people in this audience, talking about things that they've engaged with in the past, referencing those things, and then giving them a unique opportunity to have a conversation with someone on my team about that specific topic? There's so many interesting things that can be done. Like that's like scratching the surface. And our team's starting to experiment with so many of these like weird tactics that like can only happen when you have that community built. Mm-hmm. I'll give you one more. We have a client who has such a rich community that they've actually built a new product into they're an agency, but they have this community, and they found a way to actually monetize this community because they had a lot of people in that community who weren't necessarily ready to buy the full service, but who were very interested. And so they actually took some digital products and some things, they like sort of turned some of their processes into digital products and actually sold those to that community, and were able to make money from that audience, but then also create a pathway for people to,
Right.
Some subset of that audience purchases the digital products, another subset of that audience moves on to the agency service. So yeah, there's some really cool stuff you can do once you've got that audience built.
Yeah, that's a great. So I call that a bridge offer. Not sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone else has probably coined that term, but yeah, it's the idea, like, people aren't ready to buy now. How can we get them to a point where they are ready while still making some money in the process and building that trust and relationship? That's a great example.
100%. I mean, something that I like to do, as inspiration is there's creators all over, and this is not just in B2B, but in B2C. There are people all over who have amassed communities. And I wouldn't even say amassed. That makes it seem huge. People who have communities of 10,000 people, it's a micro influencer, but that's a tight knit community. And in the B2B world, you don't need a million. I don't need a million people to sign up for my service. Right. There's probably my TAM is way less than that. And there's probably only 100 new clients that really, I that are the top of the top that I really want. So what, you can do is you can look to some of these people who have these audiences, and you can see some inspiration for what people are doing. And there's some really incredible stuff out there. There are some B2C influencers who have created these communities and ecosystems that are they're brilliant. The way they use live video, the way they integrate digital products, the way they bring in-person experiences into the mix, giveaways, the way that, they're creating an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible thing. And if you take inspiration from those places, you realize oh, shoot, we're not just building our LinkedIn presence, we're building a community, and we can activate that in so many cool ways.
Right. So I think I've been playing with this idea of the big three things that can give you some leverage pretty quickly: attention, access, and assets. Right. Assets, simple. If I got something that's going to make money over the long term, great. But the attention, if you can control an audience, but it's attention, that's a huge leverage point to be able to get them looking at whatever you need. And then on the access side, if I have the right people in my network, right, that I can go to quickly make certain things happen or quickly access certain information, you can go a long way. But I think through LinkedIn and this community building, you're gaining the ability to create all three of these.
It's so well said, dude. Absolutely. Absolutely. When you shared that, it made me think about, so I had a conversation with a prospect recently who, we started, really talking about, what this could look like from their sort of seed round software company. And the founder basically, he had very much aligned with, the way I think about the, marketing and founder-led marketing in particular. And we sort of noodled on this idea that, you could basically take his product and create a little bit of a sort of a self-generating machine where essentially you're relying on building that community from day one, and you're actually building that almost into the go-to-market plan for the product. So here's what I mean is they have a lot of data, data that they're creating, and plugging into their product, and basically turning that data into content that is constantly being rolled out. And so what you have is it's actually much less about the individual founder and much more about the kind of data coming out of this organization. And that data is stuff that no one's ever seen before. And we're basically just, talk about using the founder as the avatar for all this data to come out into the world. And the reason I bring that up is that if you start as a small agency or a small software company, whatever it is, and you start from the very beginning, planning your product growth or your service growth with this community in mind that you're trying to build with you, you can actually find really unique ways to build these things in unison and create pathways for all the value that's happening in your product, whether that's the data you're creating or that's the studies you're doing or whatever it is, and find ways to funnel that into your community from day one. And it's, yeah, man, if you're willing to take this journey and you believe this is part of your marketing journey for your agency, you can build your company and your marketing kind of side by side, and it's a really cool experience.
Yeah. So I want to talk tools a bit, but with the caveat that I am a firm believer that a tool does not solve all your problems if you're not looking at the problem the right way.
Correct.
But I know the audience is probably going to be interested in tools. For instance, AI has created all of these LinkedIn post generators, Taplio, Postwise, all these others. I've played with them all. I've gotten some good posts from them, but it's like it doesn't.
Sure.
It's like once you start outsourcing your thinking, you start getting diminishing results, right? You start sounding like everybody else. Is kind of my take, I guess. How are you viewing these tools?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think in general, I'm bullish on things like AI, and I really like the idea of being able to use AI to increase efficiency wherever you can. I think that where we're at today is that the vast majority of AI tools, whether you're just using ChatGPT or Claude or some other AI post generator, we're not at a place yet where you can rely on that entirely to create your content for you. We're just not. Will we be in 12 months? Maybe, but anyone can go onto ChatGPT and say, write me a LinkedIn post about X, Y, or Z, and you'll quickly see the quality that you get. It's pretty damn low. Now, can that improve? Yeah, absolutely, it can improve. What you need, I think, what you actually brought up was a really good point, which is what founders need to be really careful with, is that we have a tendency when we want to use these sort of tools to miss the pieces that make the post what it is, which is what's the core message of the post, what's the thrust of the post, and oftentimes the writing exercise is what gets you to really refine that, to actually know what's the thrust of what I'm trying to say. The process of actually taking what's in your brain and putting it out into writing, it helps you refine that. Whereas if you take your first thought, you just write it out in a prompt, and then you just hit go and tweak, where you may arrive is actually maybe quite a bit of a distance away from what you could have arrived at if you allowed your brain to work while you also wrote at the same time. Mm-hmm. So here's what I'll say. Continue to test these tools. Continue to see what you can and can't get out of them. But remember that it is a writing tool. It is not an automatic LinkedIn post generator. It is a writing tool. And just like any other tool, there needs to be an operator. That operator needs to know how they're using the tool and why they're using the tool. You need to check the tool. You need to do X, Y, Z with the tool. And if you're thinking that this is like, oh, this is the best shortcut ever, I'll just create 30 LinkedIn posts with ChatGPT and it'll take me half a day and then I'm good. Then you're sorely mistaken. That's not how tools work. Tools help you do something a bit more efficient. But if you're looking for like I can outsource my own unique thoughts to ChatGPT, like that's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So here's what I'll say. As an agency, here's how we're thinking about this. I'm not out there to create a content studio. I'm not out there to basically say, we'll write your LinkedIn post for you and you pay us money and then that's it. I'm out there to create a full funnel LinkedIn agency. Because at the end of the day, regardless of what happens with ChatGPT, and if 3 years from now it can write exactly like you and it's perfect, great. That actually doesn't bug me. In fact, that makes me excited because now we get to spend more time on all the other things that we've talked about in this conversation. How contextually you want to make the post, the strategy behind the post, how you activate on the post, all that stuff. So we're embracing it. But that's kind of how we're seeing AI. And I feel bad for, some of our competitors who are just focused on, we're a content shop. Well, right. I think most content shops are going to struggle in, 18, 24 months.
Agreed. Do you use anything for when you're looking at just data? So like I use the Shield app to just track LinkedIn content.
Yes. Yeah. So we have a combination of third-party tools as well as some proprietary stuff we built. Yeah. As far as third-party tools go, some of the ones I'd recommend, Shield is great. It's still a little bit clunky. They're a small team. They do what they can. All of these tools, Taplio, Shield, they rely on Google Chrome extensions, and they basically use a synced Chrome extension in order to be able to scrape your data and bring it back to you. And it's interesting and it's great. And if you're sort of like a DIYer and you're going to try to do this yourself, I think it's definitely worth signing up for Shield or for Taplio or whatever. I will say, if you're looking for some of the data that I think you're going to need to have the most success, such as like who your, how many people in your latest 10 posts were from your ICP, and who are those people, and what's the total? How do you score them based off of engagement, and what topics performed best with this specific part of your ICP? That's where you're getting into like it only makes sense for us as an agency to build that tool, because it can't be done at scale in the way that like a Shield can. So yeah, just getting started, work with those other tools, Shield, Taplio, those are ones I'd recommend. But if you're looking for like that next level of data, you're gonna have to work with an agency like us that built some proprietary tech to do it, basically.
Are you looking at some point turning that proprietary tech into something outward facing?
I don't think so. And I have two ideas about this. One is that I think it makes us extremely sticky as an agency. And my lifetime value for a customer as an agency can go way up. And if we're having customers for clients for 3, 4, 5 years, if we're able to charge them more because and they don't want to leave because we have great technology. I also think that when you only have a certain client base and you say, how can we use technology to provide the most value to these people, as opposed to how can we get this process to work with 10,000 customers? I think what you're able to achieve in terms of innovation is a lot higher in the former situation, when you don't have to productize it and market it. And plus, building a software company is just like a whole different business model. Like, I'm out to build an extremely intelligent agency that uses tech to make our service better. And I think, once I decided that in the beginning, it's sort of I kind of closed the door on software as a service.
Yeah. So as we wind down here, I guess if you had to give just one piece of advice to an agency owner so they could get started on LinkedIn today, what would that be?
So I think the one most important piece of advice, if you're going to get started on this today, is don't stop. And I know that seems like a repeat of what I said before, but it's not, because the reality is that this is a journey. This is a climbing up a mountain. And you're going to learn a lot on this journey. And if you learn it while working with us, great. And if you learn it on your own and you fall into the crevices and roll your ankle and whatever, like, great. But when you take that very first step, recognize that it is a step on a journey, and that it is not it's like going to the gym. You know what I'm saying? Everyone can relate to this. Mm-hmm. If you're making the decision to lace up those shoes, make the decision for the rest of your life, right? Like, you're lacing up your shoes because you've made the decision that for the rest of your life, I am somebody who cares about fitness. Mm-hmm. I'm somebody who cares about my physical health. You're not making that decision because you want to work out 10 times and then look better. So if you're going to lace up the shoes, if you're going to start posting on LinkedIn, if you're going to start taking this strategy seriously, do it with the intention of making it a large part of your business for a long time. Don't do it with I'd rather a company wait until they're really ready to give it a full shot than do it for a few months, get discouraged, and then quit.
Makes sense. All right, Garrett, I got 2 more questions for you. The first being,
sweet,
what book do you recommend every agency leader should read?
Oh God, there's so many. Okay, I'll go with the easiest answer, which is Traction. I'm a big believer in the EOS system. It's a business management system. There's nothing necessarily novel about the concepts. It's more just that it is a framework, right? There are many business frameworks. You can pick any that you like. But it's important that you do pick one, because Traction for us, or EOS, the system for us, provides structure from which we can build our business. And I think all agencies should have some type of framework or structure. So that's one that I would say, read. If you don't have a framework for how you're building your company, and read Traction, use the EOS system.
Awesome. Last question: where can people learn more from you?
Yes. My favorite question. 2 places. One, you can follow me on LinkedIn, obviously.
Probably the best place.
My name is Garret Caudle. Yeah. It's a really great place to get, especially some of this content, fed into your feed. Yeah. Second place is our website, obviously. Influent. That's INFLUENT. It's like the word influential without the IAL. And then .co. And I always tell people .com was like $1 million, I think. It was like 1.5 million. So anyway, it's .co, influent.co, or find me, Garret Caudle. That's Garret, Garret, 1 T, on LinkedIn.
Awesome. All right, Garret, thanks for joining.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
That's the show, everyone. You can leave a rating and review, or you can do something that benefits you. Click the link in the show notes to subscribe to Agency Forward on Substack. You'll get weekly content, resources, and links from around the internet to help you drive your agency forward.